guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to do the final update to an extremely popular video, or a couple videos that I did in 2021, which were titled, Man Hands Over Baby to Fiancée's Parents After DNA Test Confirms the Child Is Not His. And guys, this story, which I'm sure many of you watched at some point, was hands down the most popular personal story I did in 2021. And the first one I did was probably around the beginning of August, and it was unbelievably popular. I did part 2 probably around early October, and now part 3 here is the guys filling us in on what's been going on. And as a quick recap, because it's been a while, this is all about the guy who met his girl, who he truly thought he had struck the jackpot with her. He met her in like Home Depot of all places when he was there shopping, and she was young, beautiful, pretty face, great body, sweet, kind, all that. They started dating. The stars were aligned for this guy in terms of her looks, the way she treated him. She cooked, she cleaned, treated him like he was the king, all these things. The sex was amazing. And eventually, she moved in with him. He's doing well for himself, and he proposed to her, and she was his fiancée. And then, lo and behold, one day, she got pregnant. And he was cool with that because this was going to be his wife, and he was going to have a family and all that. And, again, everything's cool, and then guess what? She has the child, blah, blah, blah. And then events happen where he finds out that it's a strong possibility that this child is not his. Because he discovered this by... he saw her phone going off one night, the texts were blowing up, and one of her friends was basically telling her, you got to tell him, and he did some digging and found out that during, obviously a while back, she had hooked up with some dude at a party. Okay, and I can't recall if it was multiple times, but obviously definitely once. So long story short, he was really broken down by this because he really loved her and this child. And he went to his parents, and his parents were really good to him and said, get a DNA test, find out if this child is yours or not. So when she was at work one day or doing something, he took the child in, got the test. Sure enough, the child wasn't his. Obviously, you can imagine he was obviously heartbroken over this because he thought this was his daughter. And his parents really helped him in terms of guiding him on what to do, made sure that his name was on the birth certificate. And one day she was at work, he had his buddies move all her stuff out of his house because she was living at his house, took everything in a moving van to her parents' house, dropped everything off with the baby, hand the baby over to mom and dad with a birth certificate saying, this kid's not mine. And as you can imagine, the parents lost their minds and called him the devil and all that stuff. Big freaking mess. She's losing her mind, bawling her eyes out. Take me back. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. Nope. He's done with her. End of story. It's over. Part 2, and I know I'm going on here, guys, but this has been a while. Part 2, he shares about how she's been relentlessly pursuing him, trying to get a second chance. This guy says, no way. It's not my child. You lied. You cheated. I can't trust you. We're done. She's constantly begging and pleading, showing up at his house, really crossing boundaries. The parents are putting all these things about him online, trashing his good name, as well as I think some of her friends and all that, to the point that he threatened to get a lawyer after them. They kept this crap up. And it ended with him pretty much saying, okay, I'm moving on with my life, but that's where I stood. And I'd recommended to him that if she keeps this crap up, she wouldn't leave him alone, so he couldn't move on, to pretty much get a restraining order against her, because you can't move on if she's bugging you and show up at your house unannounced and crying and putting on the waterworks and all that crap. So we're going to pick up in the final update what's been going on and all that with this guy and go from there, because it's quite an interesting story. He says, hey bro, how have you been? It's Joe again. Happy New Year to you and all your subscribers. I've been tossing around whether or not to write you with a final update on my situation, but have been so busy over the holidays with work and family, travel, etc. I had some downtime, so I thought I'd write to you and let you know what's been going on. Well, brother, I'm glad you did, because it's been a while, and I've definitely been wondering what's been going on, as the many guys that watched your video. He says, I'll try to make this not too long. So, my ex, yes, she's still my ex, and no, she hasn't stopped trying to get back with me. Well, there's a big surprise. I think she snapped or something since I blocked her on everything. I'd come home, check the security camera footage to see her car driving by my house multiple times a day. SSM, I had a talk with a couple cousins of hers who are still cool with me and told them everything. They in turn told me the whole family, and a lot of them have turned against her because she'd been painting me as the bad guy this entire time while simultaneously trying to get back with me and telling me how much she loves me. There you go. And for those of you guys that either don't remember or didn't see the other parts, yeah, she was really painting him a certain way, and he had to confront her father pretty much, because the father was putting all this nasty stuff about him online. He was really confronting the father, and the father was pretty much begging him to go back with her because the girl here he's talking about was fighting with her mom left and right, and her mom was holding her accountable. But her dad, because this is daddy's little girl, was having a hard time accepting his daughter could do something so low and so forth. But here you go, she hasn't relented. What I tell you in the previous video, bro, about getting a restraining order, see? She's keeping this shit up, just showing up, driving by your house, all that stuff. I got tired of all the phone calls, voicemails, and texts. One voicemail, she would be all cheerful, talking about how she still loves me, and we really should just at least try to move past what happened. The next test should be her screaming her head off or cursing me out. Well, that's how they work. They'll try one tactic, the sweet and loving thing. If that doesn't work, then the next thing they're screaming at you and cursing at you. If that doesn't work, then they're back with the waterworks, and round you go. Any of you guys ever broken up with a girl and she's not liking it too much, or something goes down? You all know about the different angles they tried to get what you want. If sweet and innocent doesn't work, then there's yelling. If that doesn't work, then there's crying. And usually guys cave once the crying happens, but thank the Lord you haven't caved. But if you done a restraining order like I recommended in video number 2, you wouldn't be dealing with all these voicemails and texts and her driving by and all this other bullshit. It's time, man. He says, the reason I blocked her was that she left a voicemail the day after Christmas saying, "Merry Christmas. I hope you have a good life, because if her daughter or the daughter turns out to be a failure of a person, it'll be my fault because I deprived her of a good father after that." A good father. He said, after that, I had it, and I blocked her ass on everything because ignoring her just wasn't enough anymore. Oh, blame you the day after Christmas. If the daughter doesn't have a good life, it's all your fault. It's not his daughter. DNA test proved it. It's not his child. It's on her, the mother, because you can't deny that she's the mother, to raise this child right. But you're going to see, guys, she is, in my opinion, sabotaging things so she doesn't have to deal with this child. That goes to show you what kind of person she is. And blaming him, this guy was amazing to her. Those of you guys that obviously saw the videos, you heard in detail, especially the first video, just how much this guy treated her so great. Gave her everything. Was loyal, was loving, was honest. She didn't have to want for anything. Didn't matter. And the thing is, guys, even though he was treating her nicely, this guy never came across to me as a real, like the stereotypical weak, nice guy. No. Because believe me, nice guys wouldn't cut her loose and walk away like he did once he found out. Okay, that's not nice guy shit. Stereotypical nice guy stuff. This guy's got balls and he knows when to draw the line. But she had everything, and she's going to blame him. She's the one that screwed this up, but we all know about the gals and accountability. Anyhow, he says, through her cousins, I found that she's been on a serious downward spiral. She's been neglecting the child, and it seems like she's taking up drinking. She has lost her job because she showed up drunk, out of her mind, and her parents have kicked her out of the house because of the constant fighting and her being disrespectful towards them. She has nowhere to go, really, and has been going from one couch to another at her friends' homes. I think what's happening here is, whether she realizes it or not, she's probably trying to make it that she is so screwed up that she no longer will be fit to have to raise this child. And therefore, either one of two things is going to happen. Either the state is going to get involved and take charge of the child, and that child is going to end up in foster care, or ultimately that child is going to be raised by her family and she's going to be off into the sunset. That's what I think is going to happen. Because it sounds to me like her family, they're going to probably, they don't want anything. The father loved her, but the mother definitely didn't take her shit, or as you find out in part 2. But they obviously love this child. That's what I think is going to happen. I think she's trying to sabotage things so she doesn't have to have any responsibility for this child. And by the way, remember, this child came from somewhere, so there's a baby daddy out there. You think baby daddy cares about this child? Nope. Chad and Tyrone don't care about what happens. And in the second video, you heard about that. He says, some of her friends have even gone as far as to blame me for the poor state that her life is in, saying it's my fault she's struggling so much. Now, isn't that just laughable? It is laughable, but it's predictable. Of course they're blaming you because, God forbid, they blame one of their own kind for doing what probably some of them either have done or will do in a situation similar. She made her bed and she lied in it. She's the one who screwed the whole relationship. She's the one that's going down a downward spiral and destroying a relationship with her family, getting herself fired, being drunk all the time. Okay, sure, it's a stressful situation. She's with that child, but that does no excuse for letting yourself be destroyed and given to drinking and all sorts of other substances. She's a mother. That child is her responsibility. But again, nowadays, with people and their responsibility, everybody has a label. Everybody has a reason to get out of something they need to take care of. It's not your fault, man. You are not responsible for her or that child. You went beyond average dude would. He says, and this is in reference to her friends, they say that I'm too weak of a man to stand firm and work through the difficulty of my relationship, and I just ran away and turned my back on an innocent child. That child's not yours. It's not your job to raise this child. And too weak of a man to stand firm and work through the difficulty? She was effing some other dude. That's not weakness. Weakness is staying and putting up with that crap. That's weakness. Strength is saying, I gave you everything. I was amazing to you. You're toast, sweetie. When I was told this, I nearly fell over with laughter. Her bad choices and the consequences of her bad choices are not my problem. Amen. I only have sympathy for the little girl because her father wants nothing to do with her and her mother is a mess. I'm really worried that the child won't have a fair chance in life and will grow up to be a mess just like her mother. But again, as bad as it sounds, it is not my problem. No, it is not your problem. And you know what? That may happen. And that is a shame because it's not the child's fault. I think, honestly, the best thing is that if somebody's going to raise that child, it is her family. Now, some people may say, well, that's the same family that raised her. Well, at the end of the day, parents can only do so much. How somebody behaves as an adult is on them. But that's what I think is going to happen. Either the state's going to get involved, and this child will go into foster care, be adopted, or the family will take care. But I think if the family ultimately took care of this child, they would probably disown this girl at this point. He says, as for me, SSM, I'm doing well, still working hard and considering taking a position in my company that will come with a slight pay increase and more responsibility. Good for you, bro. Moving up in the world. I'm still a bit on the fence about it because if I accept the position, I will have to move out of state, and I just bought this house I'm living in right now. I'm thinking about taking the position and giving the house to my parents, but they both say they're too old and they don't want to manage 2 homes. They say I should sell my house and save the money, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do. Well, take some time to think about it, man, but if this is moving up in the company, new position, everything, new responsibilities will help you get higher and higher, I'd think about it. And to be quite frank, maybe you could use a change of scene for a while, And I'm going to assume your house has appreciated in value given the housing market right now. And so if you can certainly sell it at a profit after, all the expenses and all that, then cool, and get a fresh start. He says, so SSM, that's about it for me. I'm doing well, and I'll continue to work and keeping doing well. I would like to thank you for taking the time to share my story and sharing your wisdom and advice. I would also like to thank your subscribers who gave me such good advice and that really helped me move past all this. Thanks, man. I will continue to remain subscribed and tune in to listen to your content. I suggest that any man that finds SSM's content, please subscribe and learn from him so you won't have to learn the hard way like I did. Well, bro, I'm glad you're doing so much better. I mean, I can tell just the way you wrote this. It's night and day how you're doing compared to 4 months ago when you provided me with the update. And, of course, night and day compared when you sent me your story back in late July, early August. So that's really good. And I told you it will get better. Take it day by day, hour by hour, and you obviously been following that advice, so good. So just keep doing what you're doing, focus on your purpose, moving up with your job and all that. And again, guys, thank you to all the subscribers out there that commented on the videos and helped him out. It really did, because I'm sure a lot of you watching this obviously saw those videos and you remember this. So every one of you that took the time to comment, you did help this guy out, whether offering advice, cheering him on, that type of stuff. And I guarantee you may think that you're just somebody from a different part of the world and it's not going to matter what you say. It does. It really helped him out. In a way, this is almost like, free therapy to a lot of dudes out there that write in and seek advice from other guys around the world. So thank you guys for doing that. I appreciate that. And this guy does too. But man, I would say at this point, as I said in the second video, if you haven't done so already, restraining order. I told you in the last video, you can't move on completely if she's bugging you all the time and all this other stuff. You don't need this bullshit in your life. You're trying to move on. And every so often, the voicemail, the texts and all that, and her stupid-ass friends. You don't need that, man. So I would very much consider, like I said in the last video 4 months ago, restraining order. And that way she'll leave you the hell alone. But then again, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how they work. If you moved away and out of state, how that restraining order in your state would work. On the next state, I don't know. You talk to a lawyer. Any lawyers in the audience, you can answer that question. That'd be appreciated. I'd appreciate that, and this guy would as well. So, all right, man. I'm sure. I guess I'm not going to hear from you again because this was the final update. So, if you want to email me personally, let me know how you're doing. Okay, no problem. This will be the final update for the videos. But wish you well, and everybody else here does as well. All right, guys. That is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Let this guy know what you think. Any tips or suggestions? Any words of wisdom? Cheering him on. He would definitely appreciate that. And also, guys, if you've got a great story you'd like to share with me, your own personal story, something you went through and you overcome, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And also, guys, you happen to be on social media, Instagram or locals, check me out, Strong Successful Male. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.